Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount & Blade Bannerlord, specifically the Realm of Thrones mod, and we're going to be going through the best crossbowman units in the game. So I've picked out 7, there's obviously more than that, but I'm doing the 7 best crossbow units in the game, and we're going to go through them like we always do. We're going to consider armor, weapons, stats, all that sort of stuff to decide which ones are the best. So let's just start it off with number 7. Alright, and at number 7 we have a Westerosi unit, the Westerland Sharpshooter. So these ones come from the Westerlands, obviously, you know, Casterly Rock, Lannisport, the Lannister region. And they come from the basic recruit, so you start with the Westerlands recruit, and you go through the Levy Crossbowmen, Hardened Crossbowmen, and finally the Sharpshooter. This one is pretty good, but they do have some weaknesses, which is why they are ranked down at the number 7 spot. So starting off at our armor, it's okay, but it's not great. It actually is pretty weak overall, so these guys are powerful enough, but you want to keep them out of the line of fire because they die a little bit too easy, in my opinion. They do have the Bound Crossbow, which is the best crossbow in the game, deals crazy high damage, is real accurate, and has great range. They have light bolts with them, which are not as good as they could be. They do stack to 20, which is a nice advantage to them, but they only have the 2 pierce, so I would prefer the heavy bolts, even though you have 2 less bolts with them. And then as a secondary melee weapon, we have the ridge-tipped arming sword, but no shield. The Westerland Sharpshooters are pretty dang good at siege defense, but not great at anything else. They don't have a shield, and their armor is too light, so they definitely take way too much damage way too quickly and die too easily. So if they're behind a castle wall, they make a very effective unit, but other than that, I don't much care for them. So for stats on this one, we have one-handed of 130, crossbow of 130, and athletics of 130, so balanced across the board, and those are good stats. It's just that the equipment that the Westerland Sharpshooter has doesn't make him as durable as I would like. So that's the Westerland Sharpshooter. They can be great in certain circumstances, but they've got too many weaknesses for me, and that's why they take the number 7 spot. At number 6 for crossbowmen, we have the FREY Assassin. So these ones are going to be a specific troop tree through the free houses, so they're going to kind of scatter around. You can see that. So the free houses are a unique troop tree from kind of scattered all around the map, and if you're familiar with the story, you'll understand how they're linked. But we have the Free House Bowmen, Free House's Levy, and then they break down into the separate trees. So the Karstark troop tree is under these ones, the Bolton troop tree, and the Frey trees. So all 3 of the ones that betrayed the Starks at the Twins. And if you want to get to the Frey Assassin, you have to go through the Free House's Bowmen, down through the Frey Crossbowmen, Sharpshooter, and Frey Assassin. So as for the equipment on this one, it's actually pretty solid. It's not as heavy as it could be, but it is pretty comprehensive, and together it makes it a pretty good unit. Better armored than the Westerland Sharpshooter, I would say. Our equipment on this one, we have the Fine Light Crossbow, which is not the best crossbow in the game, but it is okay. It's not in the top 3, but it's okay. Then we have heavy bolts, which are good, ridged arming sword, and a quiver of heavy bolts. So plenty of ammunition with these guys, a good enough sword, decent enough armor, not a whole lot to complain about there. As for our stats, we have a one-handed of 130, crossbow of 130, and athletics of 130. So same stats as the Westerland Sharpshooter. They don't have as good of a crossbow, but they do have more ammunition and better armor, so that's why I place them higher than the Westerland Sharpshooter. So that's the number 6 spot, the Frey Assassin. Let's move on to number 5. At number 5, we have a BRAAVOSI unit, the BRAAVOSI Chief Crossbowman, and now this one is a significant step up over the last 2, at least in my opinion. So we are missing a little bit of armor. We don't have shoulder armor or hand armor, but the armor we have, the helmet, the cuirass, and the boots offer decent enough armor, so heavier armor than either of the other 2 that we've already looked at. For our equipment, we have the Hickory Crossbow, which is the second best crossbow in the game, heavy bolts, which are excellent, obviously, and then the Fine Steel Paramarian, and a reinforced iron-rimmed kite shield. So we do have a sword and shield, which I quite enjoy, especially considering we don't have 2 quivers of arrows. Now, I would probably rather sacrifice the shield and have a second quiver of bolts, but as it is, it makes it a very balanced and quite a bit more durable troop than the last 2 that we looked at. So to recruit these, they come from the BRAAVOSI Recruit, which can be recruited anywhere in the BRAAVOSI territory. So that is the northwestern portion of Essos, surrounding Braavos. So once you get them, you can upgrade the recruit to the Archer, Trained Archer, Crossbowman, and Chief Crossbowman, and that's how you get to them. So that is the BRAAVOSI Chief Crossbowman, and they take the number 5 spot. Let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we have the STORMLANDS Heavy Crossbowmen. So these ones are obviously part of the regular recruit tree in the Stormlands region of Westeros. So it's the portions of the map surrounding Storm's End. It's directly south of King's Landing. So you start with the Stormlands Recruit, and you go down through the Stormlands Bowman, Archer, Crossbowman, and Heavy Crossbowman. Our loadout on this one is probably the best so far. So we've got heavy enough armor so that we have significantly better protection than the first 3 that we've covered on this list. We also have the Morning Star as our secondary weapon, which I quite like. I like having a nice quality mace as my weapon for an archer because it just makes them a little bit more effective against infantry. Our crossbow is the arbalest, which is the third best crossbow in the game. It's definitely quite good. And then 2 quivers of light bolts, so 40 bolts total. Obviously, they only do 2 pierce, so they could be better if we had the heavy bolts, but you do get extra ammo, so, and pairing that with the arbalest, which is a really good crossbow, I think it works out to be a very good unit. As for the stats on this one, we have a one-handed of 100, crossbow of 140, and an athletics of 100. So, like I said, this one has basically a significant skill jump over all of the ones previous on this list, or maybe not skill, but equipment mostly. We've got the most comprehensive armor here, a good weapon, a good crossbow, and plenty of ammunition, and pairing that with obviously nice high stats like 140 in crossbow, we've got a very solid crossbowman unit. And because the armor is a bit heavier, the athletics is 100, which is high enough, and we have a good one-handed stat and a good one-handed weapon. They also make a passable infantry unit. So that is the Stormlands Heavy Crossbowmen. They are number 4, and obviously are the best so far. So let's move on to number 3. At number 3, we have the Night's Watch Master Crossbowmen. So these ones are from the standard Night's Watch recruit, and you upgrade through the Soldier Crossbowman, Elite Crossbowman, and Master Crossbowman. So that's how you get to them. These can be recruited, obviously, around the wall in the Night's Watch territory, basically anywhere, because this is the basic troop tree. As for our equipment here, it's actually better than it looks. It looks very light, and it is pretty light, but it actually offers decent enough protection. You can see leg armor of 20, arm armor of 20, body armor of 32, plus 8 for leg and arm, and then 9 for the head. So it looks very, very light, but it's actually not as bad as it looks. Our equipment here is the Iron Arming Sword, which is pretty good, the arbalest, which again is the 3rd best crossbow in the game, and then 2 quivers of light bolts, so 40 for the ammunition on this one. So nothing real to complain about there. I like the loadout, and the armor is even better than the last couple on this list. So for our stats here, we have a one-handed of 110, so a little bit better than the Stormlands one, athletics of 110, so again a little bit better, and a crossbow of 140, which is the same. So that's why the Night's Watch Master Crossbowman is slightly better than the Stormlands Crossbowman. We've got the armor, again, is very comparable, you know, right around the same level. The equipment is pretty much the same, but the stats are just higher across the board. So the Night's Watch Master Crossbowman is a very good crossbow unit. They're great at defending castles, but they can also be used in any situation pretty effectively because, you know, we're moving up the chain, we're getting better armor, we're getting better stats. So yeah, that's the Night's Watch Master Crossbowman, which takes the number 3 spot. Let's move on to number 2. At number 2, we've got the second to last in the MYRISH noble troop tree. So these are going to be in Essos, and they're going to be around the free city of Myr, and you have to go to castles and then check the villages bound to them, and that's how you get the noble troop tree. And you upgrade from the youth all the way up to the second to last, the MYRISH Master Crossbowman. So this one is pretty decent. The armor is heavy enough considering we only have 3 pieces, but they are heavier pieces that offer pretty good protection. The loadout is the long fine steel scimitar, the fine light crossbow, and then 2 quivers of bolts. So plenty of ammunition here, and they deal nice high damage. So you can see we have 4 pierce here as opposed to the light bolts, which only do 2. The fine light crossbow is not in the top 3, but it is a pretty good crossbow in general. And of course the scimitar is a good weapon. Stat wise here, we've got one-handed of 130, crossbow of 150, and athletics of 140, so we've got plenty of ammunition, a good enough crossbow, heavy enough armor, and really solid stats all across the board to make this a very good unit. Obviously excelling at being a crossbowman, which is the main focus here, but because our athletics is high enough, our armor is heavy enough, and we have a good enough one-handed stat and one-handed weapon, they can be very effective once they've run out of bolts, or just if the enemy gets too close and they need to start being a melee unit. The MYRISH Master Crossbowman takes the number 2 spot, and I think it well deserves it. So that's number 2. Let's move on to number 1. And obviously at number 1, you only go up the troop tree there, so we have the MYRISH Artisan of War, which is the next one after the Master Crossbowman. And so it's going to be the same thing. We're going to be at the free city of Myr. Any of the castles around there, the villages bound to them, you'll be able to recruit the noble troop tree and just upgrade them all the way to the top. So the MYRISH Artisan of War does everything good that the MYRISH Master Crossbowman does, just a little bit better. So again, we've got armor that may not be super comprehensive, but it offers excellent protection, or pretty dang good protection. I don't know if it's quite to excellent level. Then we have the long fine steel scimitar, the fine light crossbow, and 2 bags of heavy bolts. So we just get that extra pierce damage, but the same ammo because we've got 2 quivers of them again. So a slight upgrade there. And then for the stats on this one, we have one-handed of 210, which is excellent. Crossbow of 230, which is excellent and is obviously the highest by a huge margin of any crossbowman in the game. And an athletics of 210, which is again quite good. Way more athletically capable than any other crossbowman on this list. So again, it's just going going to be good at all the right things. We've got a good enough crossbow, plenty of ammunition, really high crossbow stat, heavy enough armor, high enough athletics, good enough one-handed weapon and stat to make them pretty good at being an infantry unit once they've used up their ammo. So the MYRISH Artisan of War is the best crossbowman you can get in the game. If you love playing with a lot of crossbowmen units for whatever reason, I definitely recommend heading over to Essos and specifically the Myr area and recruiting as many of them as you can, because you can't beat them. They're the best crossbowmen in the game. So that is all for today. That is all 7 of our best crossbow units in the game. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it useful, but that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.